Hey, this is Gayle with BERNINA of Naperville, and it's time for Serger Club for November. And you know what? I think this one is going to be so much fun because we're making some little zippy pouches and we're getting into the holiday time, and it's time to just zippity-doo-dah some things together. And speaking of zippity, well, this is all about installing zippers on your serger. Now, normally, we give a lot of love to our BERNINA L890, but this month, well, number one, I also realize that not everybody has the funds to shell out the money for the coveted BERNINA L890, which is the top of the line Serger cover stitch combination machine. I mean, it is amazing. We all know that, right? But there is another fantastic special edition bernette that just came out this summer, and it is on sale through the holidays, and that's the Bernette Maker 68. Now, this machine comes loaded with some accessories, including the foot that we're going to use today in order to insert our zippers. So let's get over to the presentation deck. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with the way we do things for Serger Club, you're watching this video for free on YouTube, but if you want access to additional videos, if you want a discount, because we do special discounts if you sign up for Serger Club, and we also try to give you some more step-by-step instructions than what you might see in the video, then go ahead, hop on over to berninaofnaperville.com and sign up. It's easy, just look for Serger Club and you'll look for the one for zippers, which is November 2025, and lo and behold, there it'll be, right? Okay, so let's go down to the computer and have a look.
Okay, so here's a quick tour of your presentation deck. So it comes in a form where I try to give you pictures and some instructions and all that good stuff, and an explanation of what we're doing, plus a link to the video that you're watching now. Now, the thing of it is, you stumbled upon the video. Hey, how you doing? My name is Gail. You know the whole bit. You might not subscribe to our channel, or we have 600 videos on our YouTube channel. So you might just want a quick way to find this video. So it's embedded here in the presentation deck. Also, I give you a list of different machines and different supplies that you're going to need. I link everything that you're going to need for the, project. So it's hyperlinked so you can purchase from Bernina of Naperville if you like. And I give you a discount code. Now, the discount code this month is on the C16S, the C16L, the L16S, the L16L, pretty much every piping foot that I show you in the video, plus the big book of serging. So you will get this emailed to you and you will actually see this code and you'll be able to use it and so forth. So I go through all the stitches, I go through the instructions and everything. So it's a little document that's worthwhile having. So on with today's lesson. Let's first take a look at what we're doing today. So basically, what I like inserting a zipper on a serger to do is, let's get out of the garment and the apparel world, but it really is a nice solution for doing a zipper with something quilted in a bag, a little pouch like you see here. And there's two ways that I like to do them. One way is just to have a little bit of the zipper tape exposed like you see here, and you're just using these Make a zippers to create your zipper in the bag. And you can see here that overlock stitch there is just hidden away. And also, I didn't line the bag with the traditional method. I just had like a pre-quilted square here that I fashioned into a bag. And by doing the whole thing on a serger, I don't need to bind the edges of my bag. I can use that serger to save the edges and make them look pretty. But I do have to tell you that this isn't my favorite way to put the zipper in here at the top because I think it can kind of look a little bit messy there. So let's switch to this style. Now, this style could be done by simply using the standard 4-thread or 3-thread overlock stitch, but to keep the bulk down, because you do see that this little edge here is bulky, I used a 2-thread flat lock on this one. And also On this one, I have a zipper that's a double-ended zipper. It's my Happy Place zippers. And if you are going to use a pre-made zipper, like a zipper where this is very small, and we're not using this one. This is my little sample here. But if you are using a commercial zipper, you need to make sure that your zipper is at least about 2 inches larger than your finished product on both sides. So if this is 8 inches, then you want at least a 12-inch zipper. And that's simply because of the way we get started. We lose a little bit of zipper getting it fed under the serger. But nonetheless, now let's look at this one. So if we look at this one on the inside, I have this like little purple soft lock thread in there. And then on this one, so that my stitches really show up, I'm using a 12 weight spaghetti. But I think that this is cute. And the reason why I like this one better than on this bag is that this bag we had to leave like our zipper kind of exposed there at the top and it cut through the teeth and all of that stuff. Whereas here, we're just folding the zipper over like 1.25 inches, and then we're putting the zipper on, and now the edges of the zipper are tucked away neat. And I even added like a little clasp on this one so I can put it in my bag and, hold my electronics or something like that. And in both of these cases, my fabrics were just scraps of projects that we've done for Serger Club. This one was our quilting with the chain stitch using heavy thread in the bottom. This is the same weight as this, except this is called Fruity. Wonderfil makes 12 weight thread, and the variegated is called Fruity, and the solid is called Spaghetti. The quilting on this one in the bottom, in the cover stitch looper, because this is a chain stitch, both of these, this was Razzle from Wonderfil, which is an 8 weight. I made a little swatch for you so you can kind of see the showcase of the stitches that we're using. So there's two kinds of overlock stitches that you can consider. If you want to see a lot of your zipper tape, then you might consider doing the 3-thread narrow, which is what I have here around my piece. That is the 3-thread narrow overlock stitch with Serger thread in the top and bottom. The 4-thread overlock stitch is just going to be a little wider because you're using the left needle only, so it's making this just a wee bit wider. And this might be appropriate for some other types of zippers, but if you want to see the zipper exposed, then you want to use the narrow one. We're using another stitch I mentioned, and it's called the 2-thread flatlock stitch, and there's two versions of those as well. There's the narrow and the wide. So if you look here on my sample, you can see that the little ladder stitch that's created there, it's a little bit shorter in the stitching than it is here in this one. And then in this example, I'm using the Serger through the needle rather than the spaghetti. Now, I mentioned that there might be applications where you want to do the wider overlock stitch, like you see here. This is the 3-thread wide overlock, and that's because this is an invisible zipper, so we wanted to get right up to that zipper tape when we fed this through and made our zipper. So you can see essentially all of the tape on this zipper is covered in serger stitching. But with this one, I was able to just uncoil the coil on that zipper. It runs through a special foot that I haven't talked to you about yet. And then we get really close to the edging there. And of course, this is just a swatch, a sample just to kind of show. Now, I'm not sure, even though I love invisible zippers for my garments, I'm not sure that I would really use this for a garment, but I love doing invisible zippers in pockets for bags. So just consider that it's a nice alternative. So now let's just look at all of the things that we're using this month. Since it's all about zippers today, I thought I would start with just some basic things. So here are just different kinds of zippers like you might pick out, in the store when you're shopping. These Riri zippers I bought when I was in Switzerland. I also have we have some really cute zippers at the store where the tape is exposed and it looks really cute. Here's a separating zipper that looks really similar to this one. And then, of course, we've got this guy that looks more like one of our standard zippers. So, what we really need to be paying attention to is one, the size of the teeth, and two, the length of the zipper, and three, what feet we have available for our serger. So a lot of you might also be familiar with the Meka zippers or the Sally Tomato style zipper. This is one of the Tula zippers with the mint tape and the pink teeth. These are Sally Tomato. And you buy those in a roll, and then you add the little heads to the zipper with a zipper jig like this. There's also ways that you can buy the zippers in a little package. And then you've got the different zipper tape, and then you get the different little heads that you can put on them here as well. And there's a strawberry, there's a ship's wheel, there's cherries, a ship's wheel. I bet it's a citrus slice. And then there's pineapple. So this is kind of cute and definitely like that special touch when you're making a bag or something like that. And then this one is pretty much essentially the same thing. But you can also buy them where you get 3 yards of the tape at once. And then at the store, we have all different kinds of zipper heads that you can buy one at a time. So I said we need to pay attention to what kind of zipper and the zipper teeth size and all of that. And we have to pay attention to the feet and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to separate these zippers here by what size teeth they have, basically. And of course, this is just a sampling of zippers. There's far more than this to choose from out there in the big bad world. But the skinny coils of a zipper are number 3. And the heavier coils of the zipper are number 5. The Sally Tomato zippers are number 5. This Stitch Supply Company zipper is number 5. Both of these athletic zippers are number 5. And the Riri here that I have has metal teeth. And I've put this one in the number 5 category, even though it's not quite large like number 5. It's just that the metal teeth are there and you don't want to get that needle anywhere close to metal, right? There's also size 3 zippers, and these are the skinnier ones. These are the ones where, they're maybe going a little bit on a lightweight fabric. Maybe they're going just on the lining of your bag, where you don't really want the weight of a heavy zipper. And these are nylon coils here. This is an invisible zipper with the nylon coils. And then this is a metal zipper, but it's really, really thin. So these are ones that I would put in the narrow category. I got these from Emmeline. Emmeline is a bag maker, just like Sally Tomato and by Annie and all of that. And this is one of those Meka zippers that you get 3 yards with at a time or so. And this one requires a number 3 zipper head, like this. Now, this one it is different color metal than the zipper, but I don't care. I mix and match it all the time. But this is a smaller head that would go on there like that. And our little jig does the size 3 on one side and the size 5 on the other. So it's a 2-in-1 kind of thing. So now that we've got these categorized by the size of the teeth and how we're going to use them and everything, there are 2 sergers that we're using this month. I'm going to give a little love to the Bernette 68 Maker Edition, but of course, I will also be using my Bernina L890. So Bernina L890s and the L850s and 60s have feet that are clear that are piping feet. You can see them there, right? And the small can accommodate 3mm piping, and the large can accommodate 5mm piping. So essentially an 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch piping. But there's 2 different feet for that purpose. It's for the L890, it's C16S and C16L, and for the L850 and 860, it's L16S and L16L. And underneath of these feet, and I'm going to get a real up close picture of these for you, there is a groove. And in that groove, the one on the small is 3 millimeters, for like the cording, that would be 3 millimeter. And under the L is a is a much larger area that can accommodate that 1/4 inch. And so the L is what we use for our sport zippers and the pile of number 5 zippers that we have here. And then the S is what I would use over here for our finer zippers. I decided to show you the maker because the maker comes with a piping foot. But for the bernettes, there's right now only one size piping foot, and it's going to be for the small. So this foot is comparable. The piping foot for the bernette is comparable to the C16 or L16 small foot for the L890. So with that in mind, you're going to seek out, if you want to use that machine to do most of your zippers, like, my fun little make a zippers and stuff, I would seek out to do the smaller size zipper. It's possible to do the larger size, but you have to be really careful. And I have like an ugly sample here. This is not going to work. My fabric unraveled. It just wasn't great. Okay. But what I wanted to show you here is this is the skinnier zipper. This is a number 3 zipper. And I used my B68 crafter to make this one, right? And so that was fine. But, I always like to tempt fate and everything. So I used my B68 on a size 5 zipper. And I found that when I used the wide stitch, I got way too close to the edge there. And I can't really unzip the zipper because it gets stuck in the thread. And then when I used the skinny piping foot with the heavier coiled zipper, so I used the piping foot for the bernette on this coil like this, what was happening is it didn't glide over it very smoothly. It's possible, but it was a little bit more challenging. So you only have just the one foot choice for the Bernette 68. So let's look at our project that we're going to make. We're going to make a super easy, fun little zippy pouch. And one of them we're going to make on our L890 using our chunkier zipper head, and this cute little pull tab. The next one we're going to make is one on our Bernette 68, where we're going to use our thinner zipper head. We'll put a little tab on, but the star of this show is that we're going to be doing it with that flatlock stitch. So for both purses, I'm going to be using Serger thread through the needle and soft lock thread through the loopers. And I mentioned earlier that I was using soft lock, but the reason why I'm using soft lock is because in the bags, the soft lock tends to get stuck on less things than the Serger if the Serger were in the loopers. So the soft lock is only going to go through the upper looper and the lower looper, and it's just a little soft edge there that doesn't get stuck on like key rings and things like that. So that's why I'm using that. And there is a little bit of brown in here, and so like even with my quilting, right? I used a different kind of thread for this, but this was a practice. I wanted to practice my cathedral windows style quilting there, and I thought, oh, I'll use it to make our little zipper pouches. And so here we are. So I need another thread. I need a thicker thread for my Bernette sample doing that flat lock example. And so I'm going to switch to a 12 weight in the needle for that. So I pulled some samples that I have here. The dark red spools are fruity because they're variegated, and the yellow ones are the 12 weight. I happen to have another spool here. So with this, I think I'm going to go for the dark teal. That seems to be the color that matches the most, but I'm not going to worry about another soft lock thread. This is what we're going to use for our Bernette 68. We're doing the two thread flat lock, so we need the soft lock in our lower looper and the teal 12 weight Wonderfill spaghetti through our right needle. And we're going to be using a 90 top stitch needle for that. And then over here on our example, on our Bernina L890, we'll be using the two spools, one in the upper looper, one in the lower looper of the soft lock, and a Serger through the left needle and the right needle. So for our first exercise, we're going to use the L890. And we are going to use the large C16L for this because we're going to be working with our wider zipper tape. Now, with this, I know I showed you in the intro that, the tape at the same width of the bag, but because and this would be fine if I were doing this on a sewing machine, but I need a little bit of lead with the overlocking so I can get started. So I've taken about 18 inches here, so I have a couple inches in front and a couple inches behind. I also have a little zipper head that I will eventually be putting on the bag, but typically when I do a zipper head and a zipper like this, I'm going to peel apart my zipper and treat it almost like it's piping because it sort of looks like piping now. And then I will zipper it together with my jig later. So the stitch that I'll be using on my Bernina L890 is a narrow 3-thread overlock stitch with the soft lock in the loopers and Serger through the needle. Just a really basic kind of stitch.
So stitch number 4 is loaded up. That's the 3-thread overlock narrow seam. And I am ready to put the zipper in. Now, let's talk about how we're going to position the zipper. So I want my llamas to be the right side of the bag. And the easiest way to stitch this zipper into position is to have the tape on top. I'm also making an adjustment to my presser foot pressure to 2 just because there's a lot of bulk here. And then I'm going to start with the bulk of these zipper teeth coils under my foot. And it is trimming a little bit of my zipper tape off. Don't be alarmed. But you'll see how the machine feeds this through right over that heavier tape. And now there's one side and the other side, and I'm going to press this over into position and repeat the process for my other deer. So nicely pressed, and then here's our other side. And now one of the things we need to be mindful of, although with our chunky tape, we don't need to, but if you were using a zipper that had a stop on it, then you would have to zipper the zipper, line everything up, and make a knot on the zipper where you need to line things up so everything comes out even. But most of the time when I'm making a bag and something like this, I'm actually not using the zippers that, are made to length. I use my Sally Tomato zippers. So I can just do this however I want here.
So Here are our pieces. So now what we need to do is trim the zipper completely even now. Perfect. And now our zipper jig has a zipper size 3 side and a zipper size 5 side. So our chunkier zipper that we're doing on our L890 requires the chunkier side on our jig. And now we're going to turn our pieces to the wrong side here, and I'm going to feed this through the zipper and pull. And now you can see we've got almost a bag. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to add this little tab, and I can never remember if this is close and open or if this side is close and open. So I'm just going to do it this way for right now. And so I think we talked about this bag here, and I just don't like the way this ends here. Now, there's also other patterns that will have you do something like this to the zipper if you wanted your zipper at the top like this. But this is a little challenging on the serger because we don't have a tail, right? We have to have a much longer piece to be able to do this with, and the bulkiness of wrapping the edge of that zipper in fabric. So that's why, I'm going to be doing it this alternative way. So let's kind of put that there. I think that's going to look good. Then I'm going to put this coming out of here like that, just something cute. And I thought, one side is kind of fussy cut, the other side isn't, so I added the little Sarah Hearts label. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this over. I'm going to press it a little bit. Then I'm going to turn it over. And once we have it turned over and we're sure it's nice and straight, we're cutting that piece because we make up for it here, right? Okay, so now let's go inside out, making sure everything is still nice and straight on here. And I'm going to place this piece. This is the right side of my bag. I think I want my little reindeer to be facing out like that. And I want to center him under there like so. Perfect. And now I don't use clips very often, but I do in some of these cases. So I'm just going to do this to kind of hold it into place. There we go. And now I'm ready to change my machine to
The number one stitch, which is the standard 4-thread overlock stitch. It's a little bit wider and a little bit more secure. So what's going to happen with that is my bag will be sturdier.
Okay, so now I have my little pouch and I want to box the corners. And I'm boxing them about 1.5 inches. You can go 1 inch to 1.5 inches depending on how deep you want your bag. And then in this case, we want to cut, and I just use my scissors for this. Now, sometimes I'll just fold the fabric into a triangle like this and cut, but that little blade doesn't like that much bulk, so we do this. And you'll see this in many bag patterns. All right, so now I like to just think of putting one seam one way and one seam the other, and we'll serge both edges. Okay, so let's have a look, see how cute it is. So we're going to open up that zipper, turn. There's our deer. Look how cute he is. Okay, so let's replicate this bag with our flatlock stitching and on our Bernette 68. So I'll show you how I thread it up for that. I'm going to take these pieces here, and just a little reminder, in my little introduction there, I showed you a short zipper like this, but when you are doing a zipper on a serger, you want a zipper longer. I mentioned that to you, right? So this is an 18-inch piece that I've cut, or an 18-inch like YKK coat zipper, or whatever, right? So we need that. And I've got my little zipper head. I actually end up putting that on after the coils have been sewn on. And then I am going to thread up my machine with the soft lock in the lower looper. And I'm going to put a size 90 top stitch needle in my machine. And I'm going to use this 12 weight Wonderfill spaghetti. And then finally, I want to add this cute little tag from Sarah Hart's, just because I don't use these things enough. I collect them and then I don't use them. So I'm going to put that in here. So we're about to do a 2-thread narrow flatlock stitch. And we're going to place the soft lock, which is our little bit fuzzier thread, here in our lower looper path, which is the red path.
Through our telescoping thread support here. Then there's like this little clip. We're going to slip that under there. And then I'm also making sure, here's the presser foot lever over here. I'm making sure that the presser foot is up so I can slip it right through those tension discs that release when the presser foot is up. Now, this is our area. These are our holes for our air threading. This does have a cover stitch looper. We're not using that one today. And this is the lower looper. This is the upper looper. So the first thing I want to do is simply thread our lower looper. And we activate our threader by sliding that little guy to the side. Then we're going to take our hand wheel and turn until it clicks like that. This is going to make the connection with the tube that will have it thread our lower looper. Then we're going to insert our thread through the hole, push the button, and out it comes right here. Now, I told you we're using 2-thread. Well, that means we're going to grab this guy. This is our upper looper converter accessory. Comes right into the accessories bin right here, preloaded. And what this guy is doing is it's slightly adjusting the timing of the upper looper so that it circumvents the thread that would normally go through the threader here. So let's put this on. So we're going to slip this into position like so and slip that little hook. You see that little hook there? That's going to go right into the hole of the upper looper, like so. And we want to make sure everything is secure here and that that's through the hole. And now that's all we have to do as far as threading the lower looper and the upper looper. You'll notice that I don't have a foot on quite yet, but that's okay. We'll talk about that. Now the next step is to put this on green, because this is our green path. The same rules apply. We're going to floss that clip. We're going to go down through our tension disc, but this time we're going to have to thread the needle and change the needle. So all of the little tools and accessories, for changing the needle and everything are built right into the machine here. I pulled a size 90 top stitch needle from my stash here, so I'm going to undo the screw that holds it in. And sometimes I have to undo both of the screws, just a little. And then there is a needle minder at the top of the machine, just here, where I'm going to keep that needle because I just put that in not too long ago. And now let's go back to our front of our machine. And now, because this is a narrow stitch, I want to be using the right overlock needle position. That's the green. And like I mentioned earlier, I usually loosen both screws, then push that needle as far as I can get it and tighten. Perfect. And now we're going to thread this. And guess what? There's a needle threader right here that we can use. And so I'm going to take my thread and I go under, here, over, here, and over, and those little slots there. And sometimes I have to use my little tweezers to help me out. Okay, so now you kind of bring that thread across the street like so, and then you hunt for the eye of the needle and push it through. And then you're going to grab the thread from the back and pull it through. Now I'm going to insert our foot, and I just get it under that little claw and lower my presser foot. Push the little button behind the shank if I have to, and now we can see that the foot's on. Now to take the foot off, we push that button and pull the foot away. So it just goes on in the reverse order that it came off. Now we want to go to unthreading position and close our door and add our waste collector. Now this machine comes with a quick start guide, which you see here, and in the quick start guide is a loose piece that is all of the overlocking stitches, all of the cover stitches, and all the combination stitches. So we're going to be using, for this application, the 2-thread narrow stitch. So we already have that in the right needle. Then we're going to change our tensions. So our needle tension is going to go to 3. So the recommendation is for the tension to be set at 3, but we're going to do a test on this before we commit to our finished product. Then for the next piece, our lower tension is going to be at 7.5. And then I want to make our stitch length as long as possible. And the stitch length is right here, so I'm turning that up to 5. Now, I'm using some leftover fabric, and I'm using this was once a zipper, but honestly, I'm just using it for the zipper tape. It's a zipper that broke, so don't worry too much about this. I'm just testing. We wouldn't really need to put a zipper in here, but I'm just testing. So to let you know how to make the little ladder stitch using this technique is you want to sew with the zipper on top. If you sew, and then we're also assuming that this is the right side. Now, because our fabric is so gosh darn cute with these llamas, if we wanted this to be the right side, then I would sew with the zipper on top of this. And this would be the wrong side of the zipper facing us. So essentially, right sides together. So we go right sides together, or if this is the right side, right sides together. Otherwise, if you do it another way, your piece is going to look like this on the outside. So because we're practicing here, I can show you. I usually leave a tail like this of my zipper tape. And we want the coils down. Coils up, coils down. And then when we lift our foot, now this machine has a knee lever as well. I just can't get to it with this camera in my lap. And so now we're gonna lower the foot and we can preview where the coils are going because I can see it in that little window there. So I'm gonna lower my foot. And now let's go. Just getting my threads untucked. And yes, you're trimming just a little bit of the tape. Stop clutching your pearls. Okay, so here it is, hot off the machine. We can see what it looks like on this side, and we can see what it looks like on this side. So essentially, I'm just gonna pull this loose, like so, to expose that cute little blanket stitch. But I have to tell you, I think that my stitching could be just a little bit looser. And remember, I had anticipated that. So I want to take this number, and I can tell you I definitely want at least one, something like that. It needs to be much looser for the spaghetti thread. Okay, so I'm not even going to bother picking that out or whatever. Let's just try it again. Remember, this goes coil side down, couple inches of a tail. We're going to lift our presser foot and get that coil started. And now let's have a look. So I'm pulling. Okay, that was better. And now the best way to do this, and I always keep a darning needle in my machine so that I can go back and really help the fabric lay flat. You could also use a dull needle. They're a little bit longer. You could use a double eye needle. We carry those at the store. I just don't have one of those here at my house today. But that will make our piece nice and flat. Okay. And then you can see what it looks like on the, now I didn't catch the other side, my bad, but if it were pretty, it would look like this on the other side. This was our piece where the tension wasn't as loose. And, you know, that makes it harder to, you know, kind of wiggle things into position. So anyway, this is my tester. It goes bye-bye in the old trash can, so we can do our real thing now. Okay, so we're going to take that zipper and pull it apart. We're going to put the coils coil side down. And in this case, I want the outer piece to be my right side. Lead with a couple inches there. Get started under the machine. And we're going to do all of those things to get this looking really pretty and laying flat using our dull needle, which I have. just slipping that under so that one part of the stitch goes one way and one part goes the other way. If I were making this, you know, to make it the most perfect thing on the planet, I probably would have matching thread in Serger to match, but I think having the contrast here might help you see what the different threads are doing so that you can see the difference in what's happening with the needle versus what's happening on the backside. Now, if I wanted the zipper tape to show rather than the bag fabric, I would have to wiggle and flop the zipper tape on top, but I don't want to do that because once I do that, it's really hard to switch directions. I want my fabric on top. It's my personal preference. You could certainly change your mind.
All right, so this has been fixed. Now, I did make a little oopsie. My little reindeer are upside down. It's a good thing that's the inside, right? Okay, so let's be consistent here and let's put upside down reindeer on the other side. And then when I'm looking in the bag, I'll just have to look at it upside down. I don't know. Okay. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put think about it this way. We're putting this on like so, right? So what I like to do is use like a chalk liner or something like that, because when we put our other piece on, it's going to go on like this, right? And I need to start it, oopsie, I need to start it right like this. So I want it to kind of be sort of even or whatever the case is, right? In this case, because I'm making the zipper, it doesn't matter where I start. But if I had more of a traditional zipper that was a certain size and everything, I would need to do this marking. So let's just do this so that you know, right? So that means if this were the top of our zipper, this is the bottom of our zipper or whatever, I'm going to take on my zipper tape, make a little mark or line it up like this, make a little mark so I know where I'm starting. Because remember, we're getting that zipper tape under our serger first. Okay, so here we are starting again, and I did put a little clip there so I know where to line up my chalk mark, right? Okay, for our next part, we're going to need to trim our zipper even. Now, if you were using a different type of zipper, you would at this point zip it up halfway. You know, I can trim it even because we're going to be adding the head. So what you would do if your zipper head is down here and the closure is here, we're going to zip it up and then we're going to trim it. Okay. But the idea is that these two are going to get zipped together. So we're going to need our jig. We're going to need our zipper head, and we put this away from us like this on the part that is for the size 3 zipper. Then we're going to take our zipper bottoms and we're going to try to carefully do this so that it lines up perfectly. There we go, like so. And now I don't want to do it like this. I want to fold it over like so. And I'm going to give it a little pressing. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to need to trim this extra bit because see, I'm making up for it up there. Okay, so I gave this a pressing, and so now we have to trim the back side of this off, and I can use my rotary cutter, I can use obviously my scissors, but I just want to trim this. And now we're going to open it up and fold it back like this because that's how we're sewing it together because we sew it inside out. I want to make sure that I put this little tag here just in place. There we go. All right, and I need to set up my machine, the B68, for a 3-thread overlock stitch. So I'm just going to go for stitch number 1 with the both needles threaded and both loopers threaded.
Okay, so we have to make sure we put our tensions back to normal. We have to make sure we put our stitch length back to 2.5. We're gonna remove that upper looper converter, and we're gonna change our needle, put our both needles in, but not use our top stitch needle and all that good stuff. So now I'm ready to stitch. And I'm only gonna cut off just a little bit, not a lot. And I've also got my presser foot pressure on L because of the thickness of what I'm working on.
All right, we're almost done with this one. And all I'm going to do is just go in 1 inch like this on each side, just cutting a little inch square out of this. And what this is going to do, it's going to allow me to box the corners. And we can't, normally I would just put 2 seams together like this and just cut it. But the problem with that is we've got a lot of bulk for those little cutters on our serger. So I'm going to do this, cutting right on those drawn lines. And now I can take this, we're going to put one seam one way and one the other, and we're going to serge right along there on this side and the same on this side. Okay, now it's the grand reveal. So let's turn everything inside out. We've got our little boxed edges there. We've got our little tab. Ta-da! Put some stuff in it now. Upside down reindeer. Hi, guys.
All right, what do you think? Those bags are cute. I think they're cute. You know what? I even saved a couple for my own special use because you know what? You never know when you need a small bag like that for some USB sticks, for some electronic plugs and things like that. I mean, my camera equipment alone and my small little tripods and all of that, I need like little pouches. So if you enjoyed this tutorial and you'd like to see some others, well, you know what? Why don't you go on over to our Bernina of Naperville YouTube channel? It's easy. It's youtube.com/Bernina of Naperville, and there you can like, comment, and subscribe. Now, go on, get a head start on those presents and search something. Just